Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to each and every one of you. My name, of course, is Akalon, and there's some questions on one of my last videos that I really think needs to be explored because a lot of people either completely missed it or some people are very confused about what this could potentially mean. So I thought I'd quickly put this video together. Plus, there's some really interesting stuff that needs to be speculated on. Now, the video in question is about the Empire of Light. Now, I'm not going to go into absolute detail. I did a video on that, so you can watch that video if you want all of the details around how we know about this empire and so on and so forth. But the short and the long of it is the Arathians. These are the people that we meet in the War Within. The Arathians left the homeland of Azeroth, of the Eastern Kingdoms, as it were, round about 2,800 years ago. At least, based on how we've examined the timeline, it seems like that is the only time that really fits. They left the homeland, or the mainland, as it were, and they traveled somewhere. We don't know if they traveled west or east, south or north. We genuinely do not know. It is safe to assume, though, that where they went was quite far away from the Eastern Kingdom specifically, and also from Kalimdor. So they're not close, insofar as many people started asking, why didn't they help? And we'll get into that in a second. But from their perspective, and when you talk to Faerun, for example, in the War Within, they have no idea what's happening in Kalimdor or in the Eastern Kingdoms. In fact, based on their dialogue, they didn't even know that these places really existed. Not really. From their perspective, they are the only ones that matter. Now, they are a kingdom of light. They call themselves the Empire. And it is Faerun herself that says that they are strong, magnificent, and bathed in light. So the Empire worships the light. Very reminiscent of the old school Lordaeron and, you know, old school humans, by the way, before the orcs arrived and before a lot of the other magics was introduced. Very much was a light of, like, had an affinity for the light and a preference for it, shall we say. So before Lordaeron fell, it was pretty much the Alliance were all about the light. But this was also before the Alliance was the Alliance and all of the races joined the Alliance. But never mind that. That's a long story for a different day. Now, the Arathians left and they never returned. In fact, they wouldn't return. Faerun makes this very clear to Anduin when Anduin says to her, man, it sounds amazing. I would love to go for a walk through the Empire. And Faerun goes, yeah, I don't think you should. Like, that could be a really bad idea. The Empire wouldn't trust you, and they would certainly not trust your associations with all of these other races. And then Faerun explains that since they are trapped inside Hallowfall, they've learned that beggars cannot be choosers. They have to take whatever help they can get. The Empire doesn't have that problem. They don't need help from anyone. They are massively powerful, and therefore everyone else is seen as a liability, or most importantly, probably an enemy. So very, very xenophobic. Now, you would be mistaken, or you would be right. Actually, not mistaken. Sorry. Trying to throw accusations here without even knowing what we're talking about. No, you would be correct in immediately asking, and many people did, well, where was the Empire when all of these things were happening to Azeroth, when we were attacked by the Death Realms and the Lich King? Where was the Empire? You know, when the demons arrived and tried to, let's be real, do unspeakable things to us, where was the Empire? Now, to that, I will say there's one of two options for that. There's one of two options, really. The one is that they didn't even know about it. The light somehow protects them, somehow masks them, so that we don't know, and they don't know. No one knows about them. So when these cosmic forces come to attack, the cosmic forces only attack the known lands, the lands that were ordered by the Titans, and the other lands are hidden because of the light. That's option number one. Option number two is that they were fighting as well. So while the demons were invading Azeroth, as we know it, the Empire was fighting the demons as well. Most of the time, probably completely unaware of what the hell was happening on the mainland, and that a lot of the problems that they continuously face are actually the result of stuff that we're doing. in the main worlds. So the Empire is just sitting there thinking, man, why is everything attacking us the whole time? This makes no sense. Like, the whole world is against us. And it would sort of explain why they've moved ever closer to the light and their adherence to the light is so much stronger, is because when you're constantly being battered and bruised, and this is where we really get into the speculation parts of this, something that people need to understand, I think, fundamentally, is that we are fortunate enough to live in, quote-unquote, the ordered worlds of the Titans. Now, I want you to imagine Azeroth, the part that we live on, as this circular installation. Now, I have said before, I don't believe that the Well of Eternity was a mistake. I don't think Aman'Thul ripped Yisaraj out of the planet and then went, oops, and then they had to fix it. No. I don't think that at all. I think that Aman'Thul did that on purpose. And the reason for it was the Well of Eternity was used to create this aura of order, as it were, to keep all of the chaotic energies of Azeroth at bay. And I think that you may say, but Acheron, the Well of Eternity has been destroyed. Wouldn't all of that chaos now suddenly flood in? And no, because the Well of Eternity was simply the first step. It was where it all started. It gave the Titans the opportunity then to lay down a bunch of forges, lay down a bunch of engines that would literally use the power of the Titan itself, of Azeroth, in order to power this dome that keeps all of the chaotic forces at bay. And before you go, Acheron, I don't believe you. Think about this. All around us, if you were to travel west or east beyond the known borders of our worlds, you would encounter a thing called the Stormy Seas. Everywhere you go, it's the Stormy Seas. In fact, the Stormy Seas are so dangerous that not even the dragons want to fly through it. Every ship that has ever tried to sail through it never returns. So, if you think about it, if you were to imagine very quickly these lands that we live on, Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor and Pandaria and Northrend, and you imagine just outside of them, there's these, it's literally encircled by the Stormy Seas, then you can almost imagine in your mind's eye this dome of order that is being cast. And where the dome ends, that's where the chaos begins. And the Stormy Seas signifies that chaos. So should this dome ever come crumbling down, the Stormy Seas will flow immediately into our world, and things will become a lot more unstable. Now, I believe that the Arathians live in this instability. They live inside this, shall we say, natural created world of Azeroth, where the forces completely act as they should without the order that's been imposed upon it by the Titans. So you can imagine that the Empire of Light doesn't just face the enemies that we've faced, the ones of the cosmic forces having to literally invade us in order to try and enforce their will upon the world. The Empire of Light lives in the area of Azeroth where all of the cosmic forces, because if we are to imagine that Azeroth is a fractal of all of the cosmological forces, then the Empire of Light lives where all of these forces roam freely and do as they will freely. So they are constantly at war, which, as I wanted to say previously, kind of may explain their absolute reliance on their faith, on the light. If you are constantly under war, if you are constantly under attack, if no day is a given, so every single day is a battle for survival, then you are going to hold dearly to the thing that allows you to survive, to the thing that gives you power. And you'll eventually become almost tyrannical in this following. Now, here's where things get really interesting. I want you to think. You have an empire that is completely bathed in light. It is tyrannical, it is maniacal, it is magnificent, but very dangerous, and highly xenophobic. Does that remind you of anyone? You would be correct if you said immediately, oh, Scarlet Crusade. That's what it reminds me of. Yes, I'm with you. It does remind me of the Scarlet Crusade as well. And there's a couple of questions around the Scarlet Crusade. The Scarlet Crusade appears to be incredibly well funded. And no one really knows why. Based rumors we have is that a bunch of very, very rich nobles in Stormwind and other cities fund the Scarlet Crusade. And yet, the Scarlet Crusade isn't just, it doesn't look like it's just money funneled out. The fact of the matter is that SI7 and even Sylvanas' spies could never actually figure out where this funding comes from. Where do they recruit from? Their numbers appear to be limitless. And we all thought that they were actually dying out. I want to remind you all, before the most recent Heritage Armor Questlines of the Forsaken, the Scarlet Crusade was considered to be wiped out. There were sort of small remnants of pockets of resistance left, but most of the threat was gone. And then during the Heritage Armor Questline, we see portals. Portals. Literal portals opening up. And soldiers flooding through said portals. And I asked the question, from where? Where do these soldiers come from? You have SI7 and the spies of the Horde constantly hunting for members of the Scarlet Crusade and other threats of Azeroth. You have spies literally from both factions all throughout the whole of the known Azeroth, looking for locations, looking for threats. And you're telling me that all of these spies from both factions completely missed it? They just completely didn't see an entire place that is run by the Scarlet Crusade and that allows them to portal soldiers into the battlefield? Like, what? What if the Scarlet Crusade made contact with the Empire? Explained to the Empire what is happening on Azeroth, of course, through their very twisted view. Because for the Scarlet Crusade, they are highly xenophobic. They hate every race that isn't human. And while it started off as an incredibly noble organization, it of course became corrupted as a result of the Nath regime. But remember, the Nath regime have been pushed out. And since then, there is a good likelihood that they have returned to their original, let's call it, noble pursuits. Now, when I say noble, I don't at all mean the good guys. I just mean noble insofar as they absolutely adhere to the light and they are ridiculously xenophobic. Basically how they used to be. You know, and they have reached out to the Empire and they have found an incredibly strong ally within the Empire. This would mean that the Empire is aware of Kalimdor, of the Eastern Kingdoms. It knows that these lands exist. It knows about the races of these lands, but it makes no contact. Either because it has no interest in expanding this way and it does not wish to engage itself in senseless wars, since their continent would be great. And I want to point this out. Their continent could be huge, by the way, because Kalimdor, the Land of Eternal Stars, wasn't just chosen because it's the only big continent. It was simply one of the biggest continents. So yeah, for anyone that's sort of wondering, there are other massive continents. Now, the Empire could be in Avaloran. That's absolutely possible. Or the Empire could be somewhere else. We genuinely don't know how many continents are out there. Fact of the matter is, I would not be surprised at all if we find the Empire and then find the Scarlet Crusade and realize that the Scarlet Crusade or the members of the Scarlet Crusade have been living side by side with the Empire. And they've been training with the Empire. And they are funded by the Empire. Basically, as the Empire's incursionary force into Kalimdor and into the Eastern Kingdoms. Yeah, those cover most of the big questions that a lot of people had on that video. I wanted to go through it because the Scarlet Crusade bit is a brand new piece of speculation that I have to say, there were a couple of people in the comment section that managed to get that. That were instantly like on the same wavelength. Like we were right there. Right there. I read those comments and I saw Scarlet Crusade and I was like, oh yeah, here we go. We have this. ladies and gentlemen, please let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this speculation theory. As always, hit the like if you liked, dislike if you didn't, and I will see all of you in the next one. Also, $1 a month over on Patreon helps keeps this channel free from sponsorships that want to sell you stuff that you do not need. Ladies and gentlemen, peace.